What if the woman you threw away like garbage was carrying the greatest treasure of your life? What if the servants you never noticed held more dignity than the royalty you bowed to? This is the story of Blessing Okonkwo, a housemaid whose only crime was loving a man above her station, and the billionaire who learned too late that real wealth isn't counted in bank accounts. The morning sun stretched across the marble floors of the Adeyemi mansion in Ikoyi, Lagos, painting golden lines through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The mansion stood like a fortress, 7 bedrooms, an infinity pool overlooking the Atlantic, and enough wealth displayed in every corner to feed a small village for years. But all that luxury meant nothing to Blessing Okonkwo as she knelt on the cold kitchen tiles at 4:30 in the morning, scrubbing the grout between the imported Italian stones until her knuckles bled. She was 23 years old, thin as a reed from years of hunger, with eyes that still held kindness despite everything life had stolen from her. Her parents had passed away when she was 15 in a bus accident on the Lagos-Ibadan expressway. No relatives came forward. No inheritance existed. She'd spent 3 years on the streets of Oshodi, selling pure water in traffic, sleeping under bridges, until Mama Adani, the head housekeeper, found her shivering outside a church one rainy Sunday and brought her to work at the Adeyemi estate. For 5 years, Blessing had been invisible. She woke before dawn, prepared breakfast for the family, cleaned 17 rooms, washed clothes, served meals, and disappeared into her tiny quarters behind the main house before the family retired for the evening. The other staff mocked her silence, her humility, her refusal to gossip or steal. They called her too good, too holy, as if kindness was a weakness in a world built on taking what you could get. But one person saw her. Chike Adeyemi, the only son and heir to the Adeyemi tech empire, a company worth over $3 billion, had noticed Blessing in ways she never expected. It started with small things. "Good morning, Blessing," spoken softly when no one else was listening. "Thank you for the tea," said with genuine warmth. "Are you tired?" "You should rest," whispered late one night when he found her still working at midnight. Chike was 30 years old, handsome in the way wealth polished men into perfection, tall with warm brown skin, sharp cheekbones, and eyes that carried the weight of expectations he never asked for. His mother, Chief Mrs. Ngozi Adeyemi, controlled every aspect of his life. His father had died 10 years earlier, leaving the company in trust until Chike turned 35. Until then, his mother held the reins, and she wielded that power like a weapon. She had already chosen his bride. Lady Zainab Mbanifo, daughter of Queen Amara Mbanifo of the NRI Kingdom, a union that would merge technology with royal political influence and secure government contracts worth billions. The wedding was set for 6 months away. Chike had agreed because he always agreed, because disappointing his mother meant losing everything, because he'd been raised to believe duty outweighed desire. But then there was Blessing. Quiet, gentle Blessing, who never asked him for anything, who smiled like sunshine breaking through storm clouds, who hummed old Igbo hymns while she worked, who made him feel like a man instead of a business transaction. He started finding excuses to be in the kitchen when she cooked, to pass through the garden when she hung laundry, to linger in the library when she dusted the shelves. One evening, 3 months before the wedding, the rains came with the force Lagos was famous for. Thunder shook the mansion's foundations and lightning turned night into day. The power went out, plunging everything into darkness. Chike had been working late in his study when he heard a soft knock. "Sir," Blessing's voice was barely audible over the storm. "I brought you candles." "Come in," he said, and she entered, carrying a small tray with 3 candles and matches, her uniform damp from running through the rain. As she set the candles on his desk, their hands touched. Just for a second, just skin against skin, but something electric passed between them that had nothing to do with the storm. She pulled back quickly, eyes wide, and he caught her wrist gently. "Blessing," he said. "Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life?" She looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, she answered honestly. "Every day, sir. Every single day." They talked that night until dawn. About dreams that died too young, about loneliness in crowded rooms, about the weight of being invisible or being too visible. When the sun rose, something had shifted between them. Lines had blurred. Hearts had opened. For 2 months, they stole moments like thieves. Midnight conversations in the garden. Hands brushing when no one watched. A kiss behind the pool house that tasted like freedom and fear mixed together. Blessing knew it was dangerous, knew she was playing with fire that would burn her alive, but she couldn't stop. For the first time since her parents died, she felt alive, felt loved, felt like she mattered. Chike promised her things in whispers. When I take control of the company, I'll handle my mother. We'll find a way. I love you, Blessing. I won't marry Zainab. Just give me time. She believed him because she needed to, because hope was all she had. And one night, when the mansion was empty except for them, when his mother had traveled to Abuja for business and the other staff had gone to their quarters, they gave in to the love they'd been fighting. In his room, with the city lights twinkling below and her heart pounding like drums, Blessing Okonkwo gave herself to Chike Adeyemi completely, trusting that love would be enough to protect them. It wasn't. 6 weeks later, Blessing stood in the tiny bathroom of the staff quarters, staring at 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test. Her hands shook so badly she nearly dropped it. Pregnant. With twins, according to the ultrasound she'd gotten at a free clinic in Surulere, too terrified to use the family's private doctor. Twins. 2 babies. Chike's babies. She pressed her hand to her still flat stomach and felt terror and joy war inside her chest. What would she tell him? What would his mother do? What would happen to her? She decided to tell him that evening after dinner, when the house grew quiet. She rehearsed the words 100 times. Chike, I'm pregnant. We're going to have twins. I know this is complicated, but we'll figure it out together. But she never got the chance. That afternoon, as Blessing served lunch in the grand dining room, Chief Mrs. Adeyemi watched her with eyes like a hawk spotting prey. The older woman's expression was unreadable, but something cold lived behind her gaze. When Blessing left to bring dessert, she didn't notice Chief Mrs. Adeyemi follow her into the kitchen. Blessing, the older woman's voice was silk over steel. Come with me to my room. We need to discuss something. Fear prickled down Blessing's spine, but she nodded. Yes, Ma. In the massive master suite, Chief Mrs. Adeyemi closed the door and turned to face her. Her expression hadn't changed, but her voice dropped to a venomous whisper. You think I'm blind? You think I don't see the way my son looks at you? The way you've bewitched him with your poverty and your innocence? Blessing's breath caught. Ma, I don't understand. Don't lie to me, girl. I've seen you sneaking around. I've watched you. Do you know what you are? You're a housekeeper. A nobody. An orphan girl who should be grateful I gave you a roof and food. And now you dare seduce my son? Corrupt him? Try to trap him with your filth? I didn't seduce anyone, Blessing said, her voice trembling but steady. We love each other. Love? Chief Mrs. Adeyemi laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You're delusional. Chike is engaged to marry Lady Zainab in 4 months. That union will secure 50 billion naira in government contracts. Do you understand what that means? It means your little fantasy is over. I'm pregnant, Blessing blurted out, the secret bursting from her lips. I'm carrying his children. Twins. The silence that followed was more terrifying than any scream. Chief Mrs. Adeyemi's face transformed from anger to pure calculation. Then, slowly, she smiled. Pregnant. How convenient. Let me guess, you think this will make him choose you? You think he'll abandon his duty, his family, his future for a housemaid and her bastards? They're his children. They're nothing. Chief Mrs. Adeyemi opened a drawer and pulled out a jewelry box. She opened it, revealing an emerald necklace worth more than Blessing would earn in 10 lifetimes. Then, with deliberate movements, she placed the necklace in Blessing's uniform pocket. What are you doing? Blessing tried to pull away, but the older woman grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. Creating justice, she said coldly. You're a thief. You stole from me. And thieves get exactly what they deserve. Before Blessing could react, Chief Mrs. Adeyemi screamed. Thief! Someone help! She's stealing my jewelry. Within seconds, security guards burst into the room. The head of security, a massive man named Emeka, grabbed Blessing roughly by the arm. Other staff members crowded the doorway, eyes wide with shock and barely concealed satisfaction. Finally, the Holy One had fallen. "Check her pockets," Chief Mrs. Adeyemi commanded, her voice dripping with fake distress. "She was in my room uninvited. I caught her going through my things." Emeka reached into Blessing's pocket and pulled out the emerald necklace. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Blessing shook her head frantically, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't steal it. She put it there. I swear I didn't take anything." "Liar," Chief Mrs. Adeyemi spat. "You're a thief and a whore. Get her out of my house." "Where is Chike?" Blessing screamed as they dragged her toward the stairs. "Chike, please. Help me. I'm pregnant. Chike." But Chike was in a board meeting downtown, unreachable, unaware that his mother was destroying the woman he loved. The staff watched as Emeka dragged Blessing through the marble hallways she'd cleaned 1,000 times, past the gardens she'd tended, out through the front gates she'd once thought would protect her. They threw her onto the street like garbage. Her small bag of belongings landed beside her. One spare uniform, a Bible her mother had given her, and 17,000 naira she'd saved over 5 years. Everything she owned in the world. "If you come back," Chief Mrs. Adeyemi called from the gate, "I'll have you arrested. You're banned from this property. If my son tries to find you, I'll make sure you're charged with theft and thrown in prison. Do you understand me, girl? You're nothing. You will always be nothing." The gate slammed shut with a finality that echoed in Blessing's chest. She sat on the dusty pavement of Banana Island Road, Lagos's wealthiest neighborhood, surrounded by mansions she'd never be allowed to enter again, and felt her entire world collapse. Cars passed, luxury sedans and SUVs driven by people who didn't even glance at the crying girl on the sidewalk. To them, she was invisible. A beggar. A problem to be ignored. Blessing pressed her hand to her stomach and whispered to the lives growing inside her. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She had no home, no job, no references, and no way to reach Chike. His number went straight to voicemail. His social media accounts were managed by assistants. She couldn't get past security at his office building. It was as if he'd vanished from her life as completely as she'd vanished from his. What Blessing didn't know was that Chief Mrs. Adeyemi had already handled that problem too. She'd told Chike that Blessing had quit abruptly, had been caught stealing and fled before the police could be called. She'd shown him a fabricated confession letter, supposedly written by Blessing, admitting to the theft and saying she never wanted to see him again. Chike had been devastated but believed his mother. Why would she lie? And somewhere deep down, a shameful part of him felt relieved. The problem had solved itself. He could marry Zainab as planned. His life could continue on its designated path. It was better this way, he told himself, even as his heart screamed that he was making the worst mistake of his life. For 3 weeks, Blessing slept in a motor park in Yaba, curled up on cardboard between buses, her savings dwindling as she bought pure water and bread to survive. She vomited every morning from morning sickness, her body weak and trembling. Other street people stole from her twice. Once, a group of men tried to drag her into an alley, but an elderly woman selling oranges scared them off with screams and a machete. Blessing stopped praying. What was the point? God had abandoned her the same way everyone else had. Then, on a Friday afternoon as she sat on the side of Ojulegba Road trying to sell plastic bags to passers-by, a shadow fell across her. She looked up to see an elderly woman in a simple wrapper and head tie, her face lined with age but her eyes sharp and kind. "Child," the woman said. "Why are you sitting here like this? Where is your family?" "I don't have family," Blessing whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse. "I have no one." The woman studied her for a long moment, then reached down and touched Blessing's hand. Her fingers were warm. "You have someone now," she said. "My name is Mama Beatrice. Come home with me." Blessing tried to refuse, tried to say she didn't need charity, but Mama Beatrice wouldn't hear it. She helped Blessing to her feet, picked up her small bag, and led her through the winding streets of Yaba to a small compound where 5 other women lived, all of them elderly, all of them widows who'd banded together after their families abandoned them. The compound was humble but clean. 3 rooms, an outdoor kitchen, a shared bathroom. It was heaven compared to the motor park. The women fed her EBA and egusi soup, the first real meal she'd had in weeks. They gave her a mattress in the corner of one room. They asked no questions, demanded no explanations. They simply loved her. Over the following weeks, as Blessing's belly began to swell, she told Mama Beatrice everything. The mansion, Chike, the pregnancy, the jewelry, the gates slamming shut. She wept until no more tears would come. And Mama Beatrice held her like the grandmother she'd never had and whispered, "You survived, my daughter. That alone makes you stronger than you know." But survival was getting harder. Blessing needed prenatal care, vitamins, proper food. The free clinic in Suralere could only do so much. She started selling cold drinks from a bucket on the street corner near the compound, 10 naira profit per bottle. Some days she made 300 naira. Some days she made nothing. One evening, 6 months into her pregnancy, Mama Beatrice called her into the tiny sitting room. The other women were gathered, their faces serious. Blessing, Mama Beatrice began. "I need to tell you something I should have said months ago, but I wanted to be certain first. I wanted to make sure you were strong enough to hear it." Fear gripped Blessing's chest. "Am I sick? Are the babies okay?" "No, child. You're fine." But Mama Beatrice took a deep breath. "I know who you are. I know your father." Blessing froze. "You couldn't. My parents died 10 years ago. I have no family." "Your father's name was Emeka Okonkwo. He worked at the Lagos ports as a manager." "Yes," Blessing whispered, her heart pounding. "How do you know that?" "Because he was my nephew. Which makes you my great niece. I've been searching for you since your parents died, but the system swallowed you whole. No one could tell me where the orphan girl had gone. And then you appeared on a street corner, and I saw your father's eyes looking back at me." Blessing couldn't breathe. "Your family?" "Yes. And there's more. Your father wasn't just a ports manager. His father, your grandfather, owned palm oil plantations in Anambra State. When your grandfather died 30 years ago, he left everything to your father. But there was a dispute over the land, a legal battle that lasted decades. Your father died before it was resolved. But last year, the courts finally ruled in the family's favor. The plantations are yours, Blessing. $80 million worth of land, processing facilities, and export contracts." The room spun. Blessing gripped the edge of her chair. "That's not possible. I'm nobody. I have nothing." "You have everything," Mama Beatrice said gently. "I've been working with lawyers to finalize the transfer. The paperwork is almost complete. In 3 months, you'll inherit it all. You'll never have to sell drinks on a street corner again. Your children will grow up with everything you never had." Blessing broke down sobbing, but this time they were tears of relief, of disbelief, of hope she thought had died. Mama Beatrice held her close, and the other women circled around them, their hands on her shoulders, their voices rising in prayer and thanksgiving. But even as Blessing's circumstances began to change, Chike Adeyemi's life was falling apart in ways he couldn't name. The wedding to Lady Zainab had proceeded as scheduled 4 months after Blessing disappeared. The ceremony was held at the Transcorp Hilton in Abuja, attended by presidents, governors, and business titans. The media called it the wedding of the decade. 500 guests, a 10-tier cake, fireworks over the city. Chike stood at the altar and promised to love Zainab forever, his voice hollow, his heart somewhere else. He thought of Blessing during the vows, wondered where she was, hoped she was okay. Then he pushed the thoughts away and slipped a wedding ring onto Zainab's finger. The marriage was a disaster from day one. Zainab was beautiful, educated, and cruel. She mocked Chaik constantly for not being royal, for having new money instead of old blood. She spent his money like water, redecorating their penthouse 3 times in 6 months, buying designer handbags that cost more than cars. She went on girls' trips to Dubai and Paris, always with her friends, never with him. And she hated intimacy. Their wedding night had been cold and mechanical. After that, she made excuses. I'm tired. I have a headache. I don't feel like it. Chaik stopped asking after the 10th rejection. They lived like roommates, strangers sharing space but nothing else. Worse, Zainab and his mother had formed an alliance. They controlled the company together, made decisions without consulting him, froze him out of his own inheritance. He was a figurehead, a name on documents, nothing more. The life he'd sacrificed Blessing for had turned into a prison built of gold. He thought about Blessing every single day. At night, he dreamed of her smile, her laugh, her gentle hands. He woke up with her name on his lips and Zainab's cold back turned toward him in the dark. He tried to find her once, hiring a private investigator, but the trail went dead in Yaba. The investigator reported that no one by that name could be found. She'd vanished completely. Chaik told himself it was for the best. She'd moved on. She was probably happy somewhere, free from him and his family's poison. He had no idea that she was 7 months pregnant with his children, living in a widow's compound, preparing to inherit a fortune that would change everything. The night Blessing went into labor, the rains came again. Not the gentle kind, but the violent storms Lagos unleashed when the gods wanted to make a point. She'd been helping Mama Beatrice prepare dinner when the first contraction hit, a wave of pain so intense she dropped the knife she was holding and cried out. "The babies are coming," Mama Beatrice said, her voice calm despite the panic in her eyes. "We need to get you to the hospital. Now." They piled into a rickety Danfo bus, Blessing gasping through contractions while Mama Beatrice held her hand and prayed aloud. The driver raced through flooded streets to the General Hospital in Yaba, dodging potholes and stalled cars. By the time they arrived, Blessing could barely walk. The nurses rushed her into the delivery room, and Mama Beatrice was left in the waiting area, pacing and praying. 12 hours later, as dawn broke over Lagos, Blessing gave birth to 2 perfect baby boys. The first had Chaik's eyes, that exact shade of warm brown with gold flecks. The second had Blessing's gentle features but his father's strong chin. They were tiny, fragile, and absolutely beautiful. When the nurse placed them in her arms, Blessing wept. Not from sadness, but from overwhelming love. These were her sons. Hers. And she would protect them with everything she had. "What are their names?" the nurse asked kindly. "Chinidu," Blessing whispered, touching the first baby's cheek. "God leads." "And Chukwamika. God has done great things." 2 months later, the inheritance paperwork was finalized. Blessing Okonkwo became the legal owner of Okonkwo Palm Industries, valued at $80 million. The company included 12 plantations across Anambra and Enugu states, 3 processing facilities, export contracts with companies in Europe and Asia, and over 800 employees. Blessing was terrified. She knew nothing about running a business. But Mama Beatrice connected her with a team of lawyers and business managers, people who'd worked for her grandfather and wanted to honor his legacy. They taught her. They guided her. And slowly, Blessing discovered she had her father's mind for business, sharp and strategic. She moved with the babies and Mama Beatrice into a modest 3-bedroom apartment in Lekki, nothing extravagant, but comfortable and safe. She hired nannies but insisted on caring for her sons herself most of the time. Chinidu and Chukwamika became her world, her reason for breathing. She never tried to contact Chaik. Pride wouldn't let her. He'd believed his mother's lies, had married another woman without fighting for her, had moved on with his life. Why should she beg him to acknowledge his children now? If he wanted nothing to do with her then, she wanted nothing to do with him now. The years passed quickly. Blessing poured herself into building Okonkwo Palm Industries into an ethical, sustainable company. She improved worker conditions, raised wages, invested in local communities. Her reputation grew. Business magazines started featuring her. The forgotten orphan who became a tycoon. The single mother who revolutionized palm oil production. By the time the twins turned 4, Blessing had doubled the company's value to $160 million. She'd expanded into cosmetics and biofuels. She'd partnered with women's cooperatives across Nigeria. She'd become one of the most respected businesswomen in the country. But despite all her success, there was a hole in her heart that wouldn't heal. Late at night, when the twins were asleep and the apartment was quiet, she'd sit by the window and think about Chike. Wonder if he was happy. Wonder if he ever thought about her. Wonder if he knew what he'd lost. She had no idea that across the city, Chike was wondering the exact same things. The charity gala for children's education was held at the Eco Hotel on Victoria Island, a glittering affair attended by Lagos's elite. Blessing had been invited because of her company's donations to schools in rural areas. She almost didn't go, hated these pretentious events where people spent more money on their outfits than they donated to charity. But Mama Beatrice insisted. You've been hiding too long, child. Let them see what you've become. Show the world that orphan girls can rise. So Blessing wore a simple but elegant emerald green dress, her hair styled naturally, minimal jewelry. She didn't need flash. Her confidence was her accessory. When she entered the ballroom with Mama Beatrice beside her, conversations paused. People turned to stare. Who was she? Why hadn't they seen her before? Within minutes, she was surrounded by business people wanting to network, politicians offering partnerships, men attempting flirtation she shut down with polite but firm disinterest. At the far end of the ballroom, Chike Adeyemi stood with Zainab clinging to his arm like a decorative accessory. He looked older, tired, the light gone from his eyes. Zainab was criticizing the event loudly to her friends. The champagne is substandard. The decor is tacky. Why are we even here? Then Chike saw her. Blessing. Standing across the room, laughing at something an ambassador had said, her face glowing with genuine joy. For a moment, he thought he was hallucinating. His heart stopped. His breath caught. It couldn't be her. But it was. Zainab noticed his stare and followed his gaze. Who is that woman? Why are you looking at her like that? No one, Chike lied, but his feet were already moving, carrying him across the ballroom before his brain could stop them. He pushed through the crowd, ignoring Zainab's angry calls, his eyes locked on Blessing's face. When he reached her, she was mid-sentence with a group of donors. She looked up, saw him, and her entire expression went blank. For 5 seconds, they just stared at each other, years of pain and longing compressed into a single moment. Blessing, he whispered. You're alive. Her laugh was bitter. Of course I'm alive. Did you think your mother killed me? Were you hoping she had? The donors exchanged uncomfortable glances and quietly excused themselves. Mama Beatrice stayed close, protective, her hand on Blessing's elbow. I thought you left. My mother said you stole from us and ran away. I tried to find you, but you disappeared. Blessing's eyes flashed with fury. She framed me. She put that necklace in my pocket and had me thrown out like garbage. I was pregnant, Chike. With your children. And you did nothing. His face drained of all color. Pregnant? Twins. 2 boys. They're 4 years old now. They have your eyes, your smile. But they'll never know you because you abandoned us before they were even born. Chike stumbled backward as if she'd struck him. I didn't know. I swear to God, Blessing, I didn't know. My mother told me you confessed to stealing and ran away. She showed me a letter. A letter I never wrote. Blessing's voice was ice. You believed her over me without even asking, without trying to find me. You married Zainab 3 months later like I never existed. I thought you were gone. I thought I'd lost you. You did lose me. The day you chose your mother's approval over fighting for us. The day you let them destroy me without question. At that moment, Zainab appeared, her face twisted with jealousy and rage. Chaik, who is this woman? Why are you talking to her? Blessing met Zainab's eyes with cold satisfaction. I'm the housemaid he claimed to love before he threw me away for you. The woman who bore his children while he played happy families. The ghost he thought he'd erased. Zainab's mouth fell open. Children? Twins, Blessing repeated. Shinidu and Chukwamika Okonkwo. 4 years old. Beautiful, brilliant, and better off without a father who doesn't fight for them. The crowd around them had grown silent, dozens of Lagos's social elite watching the drama unfold with barely concealed glee. Phones appeared, recording, photographing. By tomorrow, this would be trending across Nigerian social media. Prove it, Zainab hissed. Show us these supposed children. You're probably lying, trying to trap him for money. Blessing pulled out her phone, pulled up her photo gallery, and held it out. On the screen were 2 identical boys with bright smiles, sitting in a garden surrounded by books and toys. The resemblance to Chaik was undeniable. His eyes. His nose. His exact smile. Chaik's hands shook as he reached for the phone, but Blessing pulled it back. You don't get to see them. You gave up that right when you signed your marriage certificate. Please, his voice cracked. Please, Blessing. Let me meet them. Let me explain. I made a mistake. The worst mistake of my life. Some mistakes don't get fixed. She turned to leave, Mama Beatrice guiding her through the parting crowd. But as she walked away, she couldn't resist one final blow. By the way, Chaik. In case you were wondering, I'm doing fine without you. Okonkwo Palm Industries. Perhaps you've heard of us. We're worth $160 million now. So I don't need your money, your apology, or your guilt. I just need you to stay away from me and my children. She left him standing in the center of the ballroom, surrounded by staring faces and flashing cameras, his entire world crumbling for the second time. Zainab was screaming at him, demanding explanations. His phone was buzzing with calls from his mother. But all he could see was Blessing's face, the pain in her eyes, the 2 beautiful boys in the photograph who would never call him daddy. That night went viral instantly. Billionaire Chaik Adeyemi's secret twin sons revealed at charity gala. Housemaid to tycoon, Blessing Okonkwo's incredible rise. Zainab Mbanifo humiliated as husband's past exposed. Within 24 hours, the story had been picked up by every major news outlet in Nigeria. Journalists camped outside Blessing's apartment building, demanding interviews. Her company's social media exploded with messages of support from women who'd survived similar betrayals. She became an overnight symbol, the single mother who'd built an empire from nothing while the man who abandoned her watched from the sidelines. Chief Mrs. Adeyemi tried to contain the damage, releasing statements claiming Blessing was a liar seeking attention. But too many people had witnessed the confrontation. The photographs of the twins were circulating online, and facial recognition software was confirming the genetic match. The lies were falling apart. Zainab filed for divorce within a week, publicly humiliated and furious that Chaik had hidden his past. The Mbanifo family pulled all their political support, and government contracts began to slip through Adeyemi Tech's fingers. The company's stock dropped 15% in 2 weeks. Everything Chief Mrs. Adeyemi had built, everything she'd sacrificed Blessing to protect, was crumbling. And Chaik, he was lost. He sat in his empty penthouse, Zainab gone, his mother refusing his calls, his life in ruins, and thought about the woman he'd loved and destroyed. He'd thrown away Blessing when she had nothing, and now she had everything while he had less than nothing. But he wasn't giving up. For the first time in his life, Chaik Adeyemi decided to fight for something that mattered. He was going to prove to Blessing that he'd changed, that he was worthy of his sons. Even if it took the rest of his life. Even if she never forgave him. Because some mistakes, the really important ones, demanded to be fought for until there was nothing left to give. 3 months after the gala, Blessing received a letter delivered by courier to her office. The envelope was simple, no logo, no return address. Inside was a single handwritten page. Blessing, I know I have no right to write to you. I know you told me to stay away. But I can't. Not after learning I have sons. Not after realizing what I threw away. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking to be in your life. I'm only asking for 1 hour. 1 hour to meet Chinidu and Chukwamika. To look them in the eyes and tell them I'm sorry. After that, if you want me gone, I'll disappear. But please don't let them grow up thinking their father didn't want them. Because I do. I want them more than I've ever wanted anything. Chike. Blessing read the letter 3 times, her emotions warring inside her chest. Anger. Pain. And something she hated to admit, curiosity. What would her sons think when they were older and asked about their father? Would they hate her for keeping him away? Or would they understand she'd been protecting them? Mama Beatrice found her staring at the letter that evening. What does your heart tell you, child? My heart tells me to protect my boys from men who abandon them. And is that what he did? Or is that what his mother forced him to do? It doesn't matter. He should have fought harder. Maybe. Or maybe people make mistakes when they're weak, and the real test is what they do after. The question isn't whether he failed you before. It's whether he'll fail your sons now. Blessing closed her eyes. I don't know if I can forgive him. Then don't. But at least let him meet his children. Let them decide what kind of father he'll be. 2 weeks later, Chike received a text message from an unknown number. Saturday, 3 p.m. Lekki Conservation Center. Come alone. No press. No drama. 1 hour. That's all you get. His hands shook as he typed back. Thank you. I'll be there. Saturday arrived with perfect weather, bright sun, and gentle breeze. Chike drove himself to the conservation center, parked in the public lot, and walked through the entrance gates with his heart pounding so hard he thought it might burst. He'd barely slept in days, terrified Blessing would change her mind, terrified he'd mess this up worse than he'd already messed everything. He found them near the canopy walkway. Blessing sat on a bench, calm and beautiful in a simple white sundress. Beside her, 2 identical 4-year-old boys in matching blue shirts played with toy cars, their voices high and joyful as they raced the cars along the wooden bench slats. Chike stopped 10 feet away, unable to move, unable to breathe. They were perfect. Absolutely perfect. Chinidu looked up first, his brown and gold eyes, Chike's eyes, meeting his father's with innocent curiosity. Mommy, who is that man? Blessing's expression was unreadable. That's someone I want you to meet. His name is Mr. Chike. Chike dropped to his knees on the grass, bringing himself to their eye level. Hi, Chinidu. Hi, Chukwamika. It's very nice to meet you. Chukwamika tilted his head. How do you know our names? Because your mommy told me. She talks about you all the time. Says you're the smartest, kindest boys in the whole world. Chinidu approached cautiously, studying Chike's face with intense focus. You have the same eyes as me. Chike's throat closed. His vision blurred with tears he refused to let fall. Yes. We do have the same eyes. Why? Chike looked at Blessing, asking permission with his gaze. She nodded once, her own eyes glistening. Because I'm your daddy, buddy. And I've been looking for you for a very long time. Both boys froze. Then Chukwamika whispered. Daddy? Yes. The twins looked at each other, some silent communication passing between them. Then Chinidu stepped forward and touched Chike's face gently, his small hand soft against Chike's cheek. Mommy said our daddy was busy. Are you still busy? No, Chike said, his voice breaking. I'm never going to be too busy for you again. I promise. Promises are important, Chukwamika said seriously. Mommy says we should never break promises. Your mommy is right. And I'm going to keep this one. Even if it takes forever. Even if it's hard. For the next hour, Chaik sat on the grass with his sons and listened to them talk about everything: their favorite foods, jollof rice and plantains, their favorite animals, lions and eagles, their favorite stories, the ones Mama Beatrice told about brave warriors and clever women. He answered their questions honestly. Where did you live before? In a big house, but it wasn't happy. Why weren't you with Mommy? Because I made bad choices, and I hurt her. Do you still make bad choices? I try not to. But if I do, I promise to fix them. Blessing watched from the bench, her heart a battlefield of conflicting emotions. She prepared herself to hate this moment, to see Chaik fail as a father and justify her decision to keep him away. But he was gentle with them, patient, genuine. He didn't talk down to them or make empty promises. He was real. Flawed but trying. When the hour ended, Shanidu and Chukwamika hugged Chaik without being asked, their small arms wrapping around his neck with the easy trust children gave before the world taught them caution. Can we see you again? Shanidu asked. Chaik looked at Blessing, hope and fear warring in his eyes. That's up to your mommy, buddy. But I hope so. I really, really hope so. Blessing stood, gathering her purse. We'll be in touch. As they walked away, the twins turned back and waved. Bye, Daddy. Chaik waved back, tears streaming freely now, his heart shattered and rebuilt at the same time. Bye, boys. I love you. That evening, alone in her apartment after the twins were asleep, Blessing sat in the dark and finally let herself cry. Not from sadness, but from the weight of carrying everything alone for so long, and the terrifying possibility that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to carry it alone anymore. Over the following months, Chaik proved himself slowly, patiently. He came to every visit Blessing allowed, twice a week at first, always on time, always prepared with thoughtful activities for the boys. He never pressured her for more. Never tried to guilt her into forgiveness. He simply showed up, again and again, proving through action what his words had failed to do 4 years earlier. He taught Shanidu and Chukwamika how to fly kites in Lekki Park. He read them bedtime stories over video calls when he couldn't visit in person. He started a college fund for both boys and contributed to it monthly. He attended their preschool performances and clapped louder than any other parent. And slowly, very slowly, Blessing's walls began to crack. Meanwhile, Chaik's life underwent radical transformation. He'd finally confronted his mother about the lies, about the frame theft, about Blessing's pregnancy that had been hidden from him. The confrontation was nuclear. Chief Mrs. Adeyemi had tried to justify her actions, claiming she'd protected the family legacy, protected him from making a disastrous choice. But Chaik didn't see protection. He saw destruction. He fired his mother from the company, removed her from the board, and cut her access to family finances. It cost him politically. It cost him socially. But for the first time, he chose integrity over convenience. He finalized his divorce from Zainab, giving her a generous settlement even though she'd abandoned him the moment scandal hit. He sold the penthouse and its painful memories, moved into a smaller apartment, donated millions to single mother support programs across Lagos. And he waited for Blessing to decide if he deserved another chance. The turning point came on the twins' 5th birthday. Blessing had organized a small party at home, just family and a few of their preschool friends. Chaik had been invited, but she'd made it clear he was there as daddy, not as anything more. Halfway through the party, Shanita ran up to Blessing in the kitchen where she was cutting cake. Mommy, can Daddy help with the piñata? I want him to lift me so I can hit it. Of course, baby. Go ask him. But then Shanita hesitated, his small face serious. Mommy, why doesn't Daddy live with us? Blessing knelt down, meeting his eyes. Because grown-up relationships are complicated, baby. Your daddy and I aren't together. But you love each other. I can tell. Out of the mouths of children. Blessing's breath caught. What makes you think that? Because you smile different when he's here. And he looks at you the same way you look at us. Like you're the most important thing in the world. Tears pricked her eyes. Sometimes love isn't enough, Shinidu. Sometimes people hurt each other, and it takes time to heal. Shanita wrapped his arms around her neck. But you always tell us that everybody deserves a second chance if they're really, really sorry. And Daddy is really sorry. I can tell. She held her son close, breathing in his little boy scent of cake frosting and innocence, and realized that maybe she'd been holding on to pain so tightly that she'd forgotten how to hold on to hope. That evening, after the guests had left and the twins were finally asleep, sugar-crashed and exhausted, Blessing found Chaik on the balcony, staring out at Lagos's glittering skyline. He was cleaning up party debris, quietly helping without being asked. "Thank you for coming today," she said. It meant a lot to them. "Thank you for letting me." He turned to face her. "Blessing, I need you to know something. I'm not here because I want to fix what I broke. I can't fix that. The past is the past. I'm here because I want to build something new. Something better. I want to be the father they deserve. And if that's all I ever get to be, if you never forgive me romantically, I'll accept that. But I need you to know I love you. I never stopped. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of the gift you gave me, our sons." Blessing studied his face, saw the truth in his eyes, the man he'd become versus the boy who'd let her down. "You broke me, Chaik. When you married Zainab, when you didn't fight for us, when you believed your mother over me, you broke something inside me that I'm still trying to repair. I know. And I'll regret that until my last breath. But Blessing, broken things can be mended. They're never the same, but sometimes they're stronger for having been broken. If you'll let me, I want to help you mend. Not as a savior, but as a partner. As an equal." The night air was cool, carrying the scent of night-blooming flowers and distant ocean salt. Blessing closed her eyes, feeling the weight of 4 years alone, 4 years of single motherhood, 4 years of building herself from nothing while he'd had everything and lost it. She'd survived without him. Thrived without him. But survival wasn't the same as living. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop surviving and start living. I can't promise forgiveness will come easy. Or fast. Or even completely. I'm not asking for easy. I'm asking for a chance. She opened her eyes and looked at him. "One chance, Chaik. One. If you hurt them, if you hurt me again, there's no third chance. Do you understand?" His relief was palpable. "Yes. I understand. And I won't waste it." They stood in silence for a moment, two people who'd loved and lost and might possibly love again, surrounded by the evidence of what they created together. Two beautiful boys who deserved better than broken parents. Two beautiful boys who might just be the glue that mended what had shattered. 6 months later, Chaik and Blessing stood before a small gathering at a beachside resort in Badagry, Lagos's coastline stretching endlessly behind them. This time, there were no politicians, no royal families, no calculated alliances. Just Mama Beatrice, the widows from the compound, Dr. Thandewi who'd helped Blessing during her pregnancy, a handful of close friends, and 2 5-year-old boys in matching tuxedos serving as ring bearers. Chaik's vows were simple but powerful. "Blessing Okonkwo, you are the strongest person I've ever known. You survived things that would have broken most people, and you raised 2 incredible sons while building an empire. I don't deserve you. But I promise to spend every day trying to become someone who does. I promise to fight for our family, to choose you over comfort, to love you louder than I've ever loved anything. And I promise our sons will never wonder if their father wants them, because I will show them every single day." Blessing's vows were equally raw. "Chaik Adeyemi, you hurt me deeper than anyone ever has. But you also taught me something important. That forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing to build something new from the ruins. I forgive you not because you've earned it, but because I refuse to let pain control my life anymore. I choose hope. I choose us. And I choose to believe that broken people can create something beautiful when they're honest about their cracks." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Shinidu and Chukwamika cheered louder than anyone, running forward to hug their parents' legs. The four of them stood together, Chike and Blessing holding hands with their sons between them, waves crashing behind them, and it felt like the ending and beginning all at once. That evening, as the sun set over the ocean in brilliant oranges and golds, Blessing stood alone for a moment on the beach, her wedding dress fluttering in the wind. She thought about the girl who'd scrubbed marble floors at dawn, who'd been thrown out of a mansion and left on the street. She thought about the woman who'd given birth alone and built an empire from nothing. That girl had dreamed of being seen, of mattering, of being loved. And this woman had learned something better. She'd learned to see herself, to know her own worth regardless of who validated it, to understand that love wasn't about being rescued but about choosing to stand with someone through the mess. Chike joined her, wrapping his arms around her waist from behind. Happy? She leaned into him, letting herself trust this moment, this man, this imperfect beautiful life they were building. Yeah. I really am. Behind them, their sons played in the surf, their laughter carried on the wind like music. And Blessing realized that the story wasn't about a billionaire who'd kicked out his housemaid. It was about a woman who'd been knocked down and chosen to rise. About a man who'd made terrible choices and fought to become better. About two boys who became the bridge between broken hearts. It was about second chances, earned through action rather than words. About forgiveness that didn't erase the past but refused to be imprisoned by it. About love that wasn't perfect or easy but was real, raw, and worth fighting for. In the years that followed, Chike and Blessing built something extraordinary. Not just as business partners, Okonkwo Palm Industries and Adeyemi Tech merged to create one of West Africa's largest conglomerates, but as parents who showed their sons what real partnership looked like. When Shinidu and Chukwamika were older, they asked about the difficult years, about why Daddy wasn't there at the beginning. And Blessing told them the truth. That their father had made mistakes. That she'd been hurt. That healing took time. But that people can change when they're willing to do the hard work, when they choose love over pride, when they fight for what matters. She told them about scrubbing floors and selling drinks on street corners. About Mama Beatrice who'd saved her when she had nothing. About inheriting wealth but choosing to use it to lift others rather than prove her worth. She taught them that real power wasn't about money or status but about integrity, compassion, and showing up even when it's hard. And when they asked if she regretted any of it, the pain, the struggle, the years of raising them alone, Blessing smiled and said no. Because every bit of suffering had taught her who she truly was. Strong, unbreakable, worthy. Not because a billionaire finally chose her, but because she'd chosen herself first. This story teaches us that sometimes the people who hurt us become the people who help us grow, not through their presence but through their absence. That survival is an art form practiced by those the world underestimates. That children born from struggle often carry gifts the comfortable never develop. That forgiveness is possible but never owed, and second chances must be earned through consistency, not apologies. Blessing Okonkwo went from housemaid to millionaire, from invisible to unforgettable, from abandoned to adored. But the real transformation wasn't financial. It was learning that her value had never been determined by the mansion she cleaned or the man who'd discarded her. It had always been there, waiting for her to recognize it in herself. We hope you found this story as powerful as we did. If it touched your heart, if it reminded you of your own strength or the strength of women you know, share your thoughts in the comments below. Give this video a like if you haven't already, and subscribe so you never miss another inspiring story. Because these tales aren't just entertainment. They're reminders that the discarded, the overlooked, the underestimated often become the ones who change the world.